Okay, so let's give an extra shout out to Professor Nicole because she organized all of this and she made the questions. I'm just reading whatever she wrote for me. I'm being honest with you. And yeah, it's a big pleasure to be here hosting for the first time, like for me, the Moorpark Entertainment Industry panel. It's a great thing for me, honestly. And this is how it's gonna work. I'm gonna introduce you the panelists, the professionals that we invited here today, so we can ask them some questions. And that includes you guys too, to ask them whatever you feel like it. So yeah, shall we get started? So our first panelist is someone called Mr. Christian Ackerman. Please come out. So Christian here happens to be a producer, writer, and director who began his career as a production assistant at The Tonight Show with Jay Leno. And ever since, he's worked on over 2,000 hours of television and produced 30 feature films. Wow, that's a lot. Yeah. And his company, Black Vortex Cinema, did I pronounce it right? Yeah, perfect, has produced 2 feature films and several short films that have won over 50 awards and played around the world. He wrote, directed, and produced Joe Bob's Haunted Drive-In that sold out the 19-acre parking lot at the Rose Bowl in 2020. Yeah, that's impressive. And the trilogy of Amazon best-selling books called My Favorite Horror Movie. And from 2017 to 2020, he served as the vice president of production at Blue Sky Films. I'm pretty sure some of you are familiar with it. Where he helped oversee 25 feature films from script to delivery to distribution companies such as Sony, Buena Vista, Netflix, Lifetime, and Eat One. So yeah, give some applause. Our next professional is Mr. David Daniel. Please come out, David. So David, just like everyone here, grew up loving movies, but dreaming of being a journalist, right? He graduated from Boston University, wow, BU, nice, with a BS in broadcast journalism, and he rose through the ranks at CNN Headline News, then got the chance to move back home to Tinseltown. Is that how you say it? Yeah. Hollywood, okay. Currently, he leads entertainment news coverage for CNN News Source, a position that includes management, producing, writing, voice work, copy editing, and conducting research and interviews. He's written and produced stories on everything from the Academy Awards to the Easter Seals Disability Film Challenge, from the death of singer Michael Jackson to the effects of the coronavirus pandemic on the entertainment business. And he broke the news of Julia Louis-Dreyfus misspelled star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. So yeah, give him some applause. Our next guest is Mrs. Dawn Garcia. Please welcome her. Hi, Dawn. Remember me, right? We met like half an hour ago. Yeah, so Mrs. Garcia here is an LA-born and bred Hispanic Latina. Growing up in a mixed-race family, she became the driving force for pushing boundaries, challenging the status quo, and devoting her life to the fight for equality and social justice. In a quest to go against the grain, she started writing at a very young age to process trauma and better understand her innate desire to live out her free-spirit nature. She is a journalist and screenwriter who has developed original TV, series, and films. Her genres of choice are drama, dark comedy, and comedy. Her strengths lie in empathetic storylines, descriptors, and dialogue, both natural and raw. And while diffused with humor, inevitably she hopes to show the thread that connects us all. She is currently developing a comedy TV series for MGM and Gator Grande Productions. She is a mother, an activist, and above all, a lover of life. So give her our next guest is Mr. Joshua Huntsman. Please, Joshua, come out. So Joshua here graduated from the University of Utah in 2020, majoring in philosophy and minoring in Spanish. Yeah. Joshua has experience working in banking, law, and retail, providing him with a unique perspective of the film industry. He currently serves as the Vice President of Finance and Development at Blue Fox Financing. That's nice. Give him some applause. Okay, our next panelist is Mrs. Dana Keating. Is it Keating? Dana, yeah, Dana, come on. So Dana here grew up in Southern California in Simi Valley and graduated from Moorpark College. While attending, she found the radio and television program and graduated with her associate's degree. After graduation, she worked on some French student films and the project started snowballing from there. Now, over 20 years later, Dana has worked on film, television, music videos, commercials, and educational projects in both the scripted and unscripted genres. She is a member of the IETSE and DGA, and she's currently working on developing her own shows in an attempt to get her own projects sold. So yeah, give her some applause, please. Our next panelist is Mr. Patrick Rizzotti. Where are you, Patrick? By the way, did I mention your last name correctly? Is it Rizzotti? Okay, perfect. That's Italian, right? Is it Italian? Okay, perfect. All right, so Mr. Patrick here graduated from Moorpark College and has successfully secured over $100 million plus in financing, spanning over 20 feature films. Wow, that's a lot of money. Including the critically acclaimed Pride, starring Terrence Howard and the collector from the writers of the Saw franchise. Maximum Truths, starring Ike Barinholtz and Dylan O'Brien. Also, Tiger Mom, starring Ken Jeong. Yeah, he's the guy from. Yeah, that's him. Where's that? Lost myself. Yeah. So Rizzotti's latest production. Oh, that was Tiger Mom. Sorry. The Winner That Kills, starring Kiefer Sutherland, starts production in April. And Patrick has recently launched the film and television lending marketplace, Blue Fox Financing, which I mentioned before. This is where our friend Joshua works at. Blue Fox Financing is the first transactional digital platform to streamline and expedite film financing opportunities for the entertainment industry, connecting borrowers with the largest database of film and television lenders and gap financiers. So give me some applause, please. We have a couple more panelists, and the next one is, please come out, Mrs. Shannon Swanson. Hi, Shannon. So Shannon here is a producer, production manager, and supervisor, and has been working in scripted film and television for over 15 years. Formerly a staff producer at Abominable Pictures. Yeah. She produced alternative programming for creative minds such as Lonely Island, that starred Akiva Schaffer, Jorma Taccone, and Andy Samberg. And also Jerry Minor, John Stern, and Curtis Gillen, and Paul Scheer. An innovative team leader, she has built an eclectic filmography that includes collaborations with many prominent indie filmmakers. Some notable titles include the Sundance hit Honey Boy, Queen Pins for Paramount Plus, and the critically acclaimed Everything Everywhere All at Once. Yeah, that's impressive. By the way, I really hope it takes Best Picture. It was awesome, like the movie. Yeah. All right, and our last panelist is, please welcome Chase Wright. Okay, so hailing from the same desolate prairies as Leslie Nielsen and Tatiana Maslany, Chase achieved an elusive secondary diploma. Soon after his accomplishment, he moved to LA and worked many years as a successful fibrillator technician. Yeah. When one day a co-worker offered Chase to work on a short film and introduced him to his real passion. And since then, Chase has been privileged enough to work on dozens of films in addition to hundreds of episodes of television as a production designer and prop master for companies that include NBC, ABC, Netflix, and Hulu. Lately, Chase has been working primarily in commercials for products that include Toyota, Best Buy, T-Mobile, and Walmart. So yeah, these are our panelists, so let's give some applause. I'm going to start out by thanking each one of you for taking some time to come over here and actually have the opportunity to communicate with few students, some people that I actually want very much to work in the film industry, just like all of you people. So this is how it's gonna work. I'm gonna ask you a few questions. I'm gonna respectfully ask you to respond in order as you're sitting, so it makes it easier for us in the production team. So I shall start with the first question. And okay, so this goes to Christian. Okay, so please tell us how you got your first job in the industry and what your current job responsibilities are.
I moved to LA to go to Cal State Northridge, and my sister was already here working in the industry, and so luckily, while I was going through college, she got me a job where she was working at the Tonight Show with Jay Leno. And then I worked as much as I could. I even started scheduling my classes so I could work there more. And then, once I graduated, then I worked there for a few more years, was making films, and then broke away from there and have been freelancing ever since. Right now, as a producer, I do various jobs as a producer. Mainly making independent films, and usually my job, I work under a main producer often, and they give me the script and ask me to break down the schedule, put a schedule together and make a budget based on how much he thinks or that the film's getting financed for. And then from there, we hire everybody and make the movie.
What's Jay Leno like? I always wondered.
He's really cool.
Is he tall?
Yeah, he was tall, and he was he was a really nice guy. I worked with him for 10 years, and I don't think I ever saw him mad. He was always super nice to everybody. I screwed up one time, and I lost a monologue joke because we'd have to run jokes down to the cue card room, and then they would write them up, and he would practice them. And one time, somehow the joke fell into the thing, and it didn't go to him. So after the show, he said, hey, what happened to that one joke? And I'm like, oh, yeah, it must have slipped into the thing. I'm sorry about that. He was like, well, don't let it happen again. But it's fine. And that was the only time I ever saw him, like, I'm not even mad. He's just a great guy, always joking around.
Yeah, did you fret the fire?
No threat. Yep.
Yeah, okay, thanks so much, Christian.
Yeah.
All right, and now the same question to David. I think you have the question with you, yeah. So, yeah, please tell us how you got your first job in the industry and what's your current responsibilities.
Because I'm still working at the same company I started out of college more than 30 years later, which is, I'm told, very unusual these days. I did essentially what you're doing. I went to school and majored in what I wanted to do. In my case, it was broadcast journalism. And I was fortunate enough to land an interview and a job with what was then CNN Headline News, which most people in this room are too young to remember. Anybody here ever listen to news radio, KNX or something like that? There's a wheel format. Same time every hour, every half hour, you're going to get news, you're going to get weather, you're going to get traffic, you're going to get sports. That's what Headline News was. Every half hour, certain time you'd get news, you'd get business news, you'd get sports, entertainment, bottom of the hour random stuff, video of a water skiing squirrel, that sort of thing. And then it would start over again. So you could, just like news radio, you could check in for your quick hit of what was happening in the world. And that was great training to be able to write and to write concisely, because if you have a certain amount of time to deliver the news, you want to fit as many stories as you can into that block. And so you're going to write each story as concisely as you possibly can. When I got the chance to come back from Atlanta, where CNN is based, to my home here in Los Angeles, it was to cover entertainment news, which was wonderful, because if you grow up here, it's just kind of in your blood. And so I, for the last 7-8 years, have been the entertainment producer, senior producer, voiceover person, writer, everything all at once, for CNN News Source, which is our affiliate arm. I have to keep readjusting because of the generation I'm talking to. When your parents watch local news, and they watch, say, Channel 2, if there's something on Channel 2 News that didn't happen in Southern California or maybe up in the capital in Sacramento, if it happened in the middle of the country or in New York or overseas, well, the local news crew didn't send someone there. They got it from the network. KCBS, Channel 2, is a CBS affiliate. That's why you see CBS primetime programming on there. But CNN does the same thing, and we're cable, so we can have as many affiliates in a market as we want. We're not limited to just one. So we have over 1,000 affiliates, television stations, radio stations, standalone websites, colleges and universities, who we create content for those affiliates to use as they like. I create a schedule of stories and make sure that we have enough stories planned to get out to our affiliates on a regular basis. I produce many of them. I write many of them. I copy edit. I do the voiceover. With a full-time freelance producer and one editor, and occasionally an intern, we put out 12 reporter packages a week, and also a half-hour show about movies called Hollywood Express that goes to international affiliates. So it keeps me busy.
Oh, yeah, I saw here that you have written, bless you, I saw here that you have written and produced stories that include the death of singer Michael Jackson and also the effects of coronavirus. Did you meet MJ?
I never got a chance to meet MJ, no. I've done some 1,500 interviews, did not have that chance. That is one of the ones I would have liked to have had.
But you did meet coronavirus. Everyone did. Great guy.
We all met coronavirus, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't need to meet him again.
Never. Okay, so Dawn, you're the next one for the same question. So yeah, please tell us how did you get your first job and what are your current responsibilities inside your position in the industry?
Okay, so just so you guys know, we're holding these microphones because the sound is going to the machines. So you don't hear us on the microphone. It's not really a problem. So I started out actually doing makeup and special effects. I was your age or younger. I wanted to get an Oscar for makeup and special effects, and I thought it was the coolest thing ever. So I actually went to cosmetology school while I was in high school, and then I went to Sunset Gower Studios and studied 800 more hours. So I learned how to do prosthetics and all these things. Writing was something that I was told to do, but never thought I would want to do it. And the very first job I got doing makeup, back when we started, you could walk onto lots and be very persistent, and you cannot do that anymore without being tackled. So I was very lucky. I was just very tenacious. So I would highly recommend never, ever, ever take no, because all you need is one yes. And yeah, so basically my first job was a Snapple commercial. I did a lot of stuff with Art Center, USC School of Film, a lot of their student projects. Like my friend Joe, he's the one that, Joe Nussbaum, he actually does a lot of like kid stuff now, but he did Lucas in Love, which is the most incredible short film. If you've never seen it, please watch it. But yeah, so I kind of took a long road around, and I worked, I knew in makeup that I wanted to learn all the jobs on set. And so that's also when I got really introduced to story and screenplays and understanding all the like nuances and stuff that are really, really important to convey. So like when you do makeup and you look at a script, you have to think about emotion, color, lens, all the tones that they might change out when they're doing all their post edits. And that made me really love story even more. And so I didn't even start doing it until much later. And then now I write. Film is how I started, writing film, and just finished 4 TV series, created 3, co-created 1, and now, I don't know. Sorry, I have to get comfortable. But basically, my job now is waiting. So I finished the TV series for Amazon. I'm writing a new comedy series, for MGM. Amazon's buying MGM right now, so just be prepared. There's a lot of waiting in this industry. But yeah, so now basically I write every day. I also own a magazine because I had friends that weren't getting enough stories. I felt like nobody really knew how hard it was to make it in this industry. And I think while it's glamorous, it's also a lot of work, and you have to just be willing to put in the work. So I would say, yeah, my job is making stories up out of my head, and then doing a tremendous amount of research, and then taking notes and rewriting, because a good writer is a rewriter. So that's it.
I have a question for you. What would you say is your favorite makeup design for any TV or film production?
I loved Pan's Labyrinth. I mean,
That's a great
he's
movie.
such a fantastic filmmaker and storyteller, and yeah.
This is like an Alice in Wonderland for adults.
Yeah,
It's kind of...
oh, sorry. Yeah, I mean, I got hired to work on Star Wars. I was supposed to do makeup for Star Wars, and then pivoted. So I will just, you never know how life is going to turn out. So, yeah, be ready to pivot.
Thank you so much, Dawn. Okay, so now Joshua, please tell us how you got your first job and what are your current responsibilities.
How's everyone doing? Good? We love a good crowd. In case you can't tell, I'm not super far removed from college, so I know how it is. Half of you went out last night, and the other half of you probably got a little bit high, but don't worry, I'm not going to tell your teacher or anything. So how I got this job is actually really sad, long, and complicated story. I was an aspiring law student for many years. Moved out to Los Angeles. I attended Loyola Law School for 1 semester. And without getting into too much detail, didn't quite work out. I took myself out, had to take a step back and kind of assess what the heck I wanted to do. And so thankfully, graciously, there was an opportunity a couple of months after Patrick Rosati here started Blue Fox Financing. He was looking for really just help more than anything else. And I was looking for something to do while I was redoing my law applications that would look really good in front of a law school admissions committee. So I thought, okay, this guy, he's, seems like he knows what he's doing, and there's this opportunity on the table. I think law schools would look really good to, have some financial experience. So I said, what the heck? I met Patrick, he was a producer on a movie that my brother wrote, and so there was a familial connection there. And I won't speak too much for Patrick, but we hit it off, and we have an amazing relationship. And for the last 6 or 7 months, we've been growing Blue Fox Financing, and it's been a hell of a ride, and we're just getting started, and I'm super excited to see where it takes us. In terms of what the company does on a day-to-day basis, I'll have Patrick speak more to that when it gets to him, because he's obviously much more well-versed and well-equipped at explaining the more technical aspects of what we do. But really happy to be here. Thank you, Yasser.
Thanks so much, Joshua. I appreciate your answer. Okay, so now it's Dana. Yeah, that's you. Please answer, how did you get your first job and what are your current responsibilities?
Hi, first of all, I want to apologize. I feel like I'm out of order and we should have set these two next to each other so they could have just continued.
It's okay.
So I feel like, I don't know if I'm the palate cleanser in between, kind of. So hi, I'm Dana. I went to Moorpark College as well. I graduated from high school. I went to Simi High. And so I had no idea what I wanted to do after high school. So I just went to Moorpark and said, you know what, you're supposed to go to college after high school. So we did my first 2 years, took almost every elective I could get. Still had no idea after 2 years. I'm looking through the catalog, and I'm like, all right, I've taken that and that. So I got to the point where it's like I'd done everything except X-ray technician, which I said I don't want to do anything medical. The EDM program, I don't know if they still have that here, but it was a 6-year waiting list, and I said, well, I don't want 6 years to wait, so 6 years for my life to start. And television film, or television radio at that time. And I said, well, I like watching TV. So I took the class, and I said, nope, that's it, I want to do this is what I want to do. So I took the 2 years. After school, I had a couple of friends that graduated the program and went to USC Film School. They asked me to do their student films. I worked on that, then met another student film, did another student film there, and then it just snowballed. I started out as the AD route. Started out as first AD, second AD, did all that kind of stuff. And then it kind of switched over to the production side with production coordinating, production managing. Now I line produce. I've done everything from TV shows, films, a lot of films that you guys would never have heard of. Good luck finding the titles even online. But some of the TV shows, everything from network to Amazon, Hulu, that kind of stuff. I've done that. Basically what a line producer does, because I know that they don't teach you that in school. Nobody ever. How many of you actually have heard the title line producer before? Oh, wow. Oh, all right, this is true. So those of you who don't know, essentially, the line producer is two different worlds. In film and television, it's slightly different, but essentially the same. Film, you do the budget and the breakdown, initial breakdown, so then they can go out and get financing for it. And then you come back once they have money, then you come back and now you're in charge of the budget, making sure you don't spend any more money than you have. On the television side, you do the budget, you give it to the network basically comes, or your company sells the show to one of the networks and says, okay, we want to do that, but we want to do it for this much money. You give them the budget, they say, no, we don't want that, do it for half. So then you go back and change all that stuff and you do it for half and it makes the show even worse. And now you're stuck with trying to make the crappier show. So I just want you to know, all those people that have watched a show and be like, this is so bad, it was probably a good show until the network got involved and said do it for half. And now this is what we end up with. So I think that's pretty much my spiel.
Yeah, thanks so much. Yeah, I have a question for you. What's line producing?
Oh, sorry. Line producing is basically I'm in charge of the budget. So I just make sure that's the easiest way to say it. There's a lot more, as Nicole's probably told some of you, that there's a lot more involved. It's not just the budget and everything else. It's also making sure all the legal stuff is in place and, that all the T's have been crossed and the I's have been dotted, and, making sure all the releases have done. And film and television is weird because in film, as soon as you're done with production, the line producer goes away and then the post-production takes over and finishes it out. In television, you're on from, hey, here's the money, go all the way till it's been delivered and aired. So you basically have to know both production and post-production if you're doing film, if you're doing television. But yeah, in charge of everything, basically overall, the production process, overall, seeing everything.
Rick, please tell us how you got your first job. And
Yeah,
what your
hello
current
everybody. How you doing? So I grew up in Chatsworth, graduated from Chatsworth High, came here, went to Moorpark College, played baseball here actually, and majored in film. Took me 3 years to graduate. I remember, it's funny looking, in this class, I think I actually took a class or two here when I was a student. But I had no idea what I wanted to do. I just knew I wanted to get into the film industry. I eventually made my way to CSUN, and during CSUN worked as a grip and electrician, like during a couple summers, and made my way eventually after CSUN to think I wanted to produce, although I had no idea what that even meant, frankly. Started developing some scripts and basically went around Hollywood for 4 years saying I was a producer and never produced anything, which was really embarrassing. And then finally had an opportunity with the script a friend of mine wrote to make a movie called Pride, which is with Terrence Howard. It's based on an inner city swim team that ended up winning a national championship as an all-black school. And so that introduced me into the world of movies, and eventually, made another 15-plus movies as a producer. A lot of genre stuff, did like horror movies like The Collector, you guys may be familiar with, and comedies. And when I started having kids, like 8 or 9 years ago, my first kid, I started getting really bummed out every time a movie got made because I'd be gone for a couple months and would be away from my family. It's something I didn't really think. When you're single and have no kids, it's fun to leave and go all over and shoot. But when you have a foundation, you have a family, you're like, shit, I don't want to do this anymore. So eventually, I came up with an idea to start a marketplace for film financing for movies that are gearing up for production. And so Joshua and I met, through this other movie I produced. We started in May of last year, and we were really the first company to ever do a marketplace in the film industry. So films that are gearing up for production, they come to us. We have like 25 lenders and investors on our platform, and we look at films as they come. Almost all of them are independent movies, and we basically match financiers to films. But yeah, I mean, I'd love to, when we get to the point, answer any questions, because I sat in your guys' chair. I literally remember like it was yesterday being a major here and not having any idea what I wanted to do other than I knew I wanted to get in the film industry. And you have to and that's what's cool about everyone up here. Everyone's a little bit different, so you have your own path that you make, and you'll find the area that you're the most passionate about if you stick with it.
Thanks so much, Patrick. Okay, so I actually have a question for you. You've worked in over 20 plus feature films. Which one do you think you had the best experience, like in general?
This one was was based on a true story, and we went and met the guy. The guy was he taught in Philadelphia, and basically we went there saying we're going to make his movie, and literally we were kind of full of shit, to be honest with you, when we went and met him. And but we had the passion on the script, and we stumbled our way through, end up flying to Sundance and cornered Terrence Howard in a coffee shop, and forced him to basically handed him our physical script. And then so fast forward to that night that movie premiered, it was in Philly, standing ovation. And I remember looking in this guy's eyes after that movie was done, and it was like I've never had an experience better than that moment, seeing him get his movie made.
Great. That's what films are for, too.
Yeah, exactly.
Have you ever traveled overseas?
Yeah. I mean, I've never shot a film overseas. I've shot, all of my films have been in the U.S., but we've scouted all over. Just eventually made our way back here to shoot them. Yeah.
Okay, so yes, Shem, it's your turn.
Okay, so my first job in the industry was working for a docuseries called Girls Next Door. Not sure if anyone knows that show, but it was about Hugh Hefner's girlfriends. It was a really interesting show to work on when I was like 18, because I never worked in the industry, and my title on the show was logger, which is from what I've heard from colleagues, is not necessarily as common of a job right now. But I was a very fast typist, and basically I just watched all of the raw footage down and organized it for the editors by cataloging and typing descriptions, close up, camera pans left, close up of Hugh Hefner laughing. And I try and use keywords so the editors would be able to search them. And it was a really great experience because it was my first job, so I learned a lot, but I also got to see a lot of raw footage and see the choices that the director and the field producers were making. So that was really interesting. And I was 18. I decided, and other people commented on their education, so I think I will. Mine's very unconventional. And it's not a path I would recommend. I think it's so wonderful that you're all here at Moorpark. And after I graduated high school, I jumped right into the industry. I thought I wanted to be an actor. I joined a repertory theater and acting school, and I was there for 3.5 years. And it ultimately was a very interesting experience. But I always was working behind the scenes. I was an assistant for 5 years. From clearance assistant to research assistant to production assistant, on set, off, in post-production. And I ultimately realized I love behind the scenes, I love production. Became an IATSE production coordinator because of a very indie movie that I got to do. That flipped, became union. And I was a production coordinator for 10 years. Everything Everywhere All at Once was actually the last movie that I production coordinated because I toggled for a long time. I was the in-house production coordinator at Abominable Pictures that did like the show Children's Hospital and Wet Hot American Summer, and really fun kind of comedy with indie vibes, and became one of their staff producers. But then when I left after I had my son, I went back to independent film, and that's where I've been for the last 7 years, exclusively working in indie film in LA. And after Everything Everywhere All at Once, I've been production supervising and production managing, but mostly production supervising because of the union projects. And what production supervising is it's really working on the logistical team of a film, working very closely with the line producer. My main role is making sure that the standards and practices are being followed, that the rules are being followed, and that at the end of the day, when the movie's done, it can be distributed legally with proof of proper clearance, and that nobody was harmed in the making of the movie, and making sure that the budget and the schedule was followed. It's a lot. I equate it, my grandfather was a general manager of a hotel, and I equate it to basically, the line producer, you're like the general manager of a hotel, and when you're on that team managing something very large with so many moving parts, you kind of have a hand in everything. You always have to know everything that's going on. And I think assisting for 5 years was really helpful. Back to the education really quick. 7 years ago, I decided I wanted to get my degree. So I started here at Moorpark 7 years ago. I know you said it took you 3 years, but I'll be graduating in May with my associate's degree in film. It took me 7 years. So I just chipped away because I have 2 small children. I'm working, so I just chipped away 1 class at a time. And I love Moorpark College. It's such a wonderful organization. I think there's so many wonderful educators and clubs, and it seems like such a great community. I'm really grateful. I think it's made me a better worker, and I'm just going to keep going with my education. So even though my path was unconventional, I don't recommend that. I think being here, getting a solid education is such a wonderful start. So I just want to say that, since I don't necessarily follow how I did it.
Okay, thanks so much, Shannon. Yeah, thank you. Okay, so at last but not least, Chase Wright.
So of course, I've seen a few episodes just, because it was on in the background. But hello, I'm Chase. I came from Canada, moved down here to straight out of high school. Worked a few years at McDonald's flipping burgers. Then I had a buddy that was an aspiring cinematographer, and he needed a grip for the night. I don't even remember what we were shooting. So he introduced me into the film industry, fell in love with it instantly, worked a few years as a grip and electric swing, eventually moved to art department that I enjoy a hell of a lot more. But, went from moving sandbags to moving couches, so it's a step up. But as a production designer, my whole area of responsibilities is everything that you see on a film or a TV show. If you see it and it's not the actor, it's probably my problem. From everything from building the sets to, dealing with the props or the special effects. If there's rain, I have to coordinate with the special effects department to make sure that we have that. The explosives, painting sets, getting furniture, a lot of boring stuff. The fun stuff is props department. So I get to work as a props master as well a lot of the time, and that's where you get the truck filled with anything from 100 robotic iguanas to building giant penises, which is what I did a couple of weeks ago, to, just having a whole bunch of alien or Cold War technology in the back of your truck that you get to play around with. So that's the fun part about art department, is definitely the props. But production design is good too. They get all the credit, but props is where it's at.
All right, so thanks so much, Chase. All right, so thank you everyone for the first question. Yes, that was only the first question. Okay, so going for the second one and coming back to, of course, Mr. Christian. How have you been able to sustain a long-time career in this freelance industry?
So when I went to college, I tried to learn every single job that I could. And I try to work on everybody's movies, and that's the one thing I suggest to everyone as well, is that learn every single thing you possibly can, because it's all going to be applied to what you do later, especially for us as some of us line producers and producers up here that when a crew member says, "I need this item for for their camera or for the lighting," we know what the item is. We know how much it costs. We can tell them no right away because we could say, "Let me see if I can do that." Or if somebody says, "I only need this," and you can say, "Oh, but there is another way to do it, and we can do it less expensive way, or more affordable." So that's the biggest thing that I would say is learn everything, do every job you can. It doesn't matter lighting from makeup you may not want to do because it's specialized. You don't want to poison someone's face or anything, but. Yeah, just learn everything, especially if you want to be a director or producer. To be able to speak another department's language is really key, and that really helps speed things up, and you have a common way to discuss what you're trying to communicate to people.
Okay. Thanks so much. What about you, David? What would you say?
Sorry, partly luck. There have been, I can't count the number of cutbacks there have been in the 3 decades plus I've been at CNN. CNN used to have an entertainment unit that put entertainment programming, programming about movies, television, music on CNN. And about 8 years ago, they decided they weren't going to do that anymore. I'm the only person left from that unit, still working for the company. And part of the reason is I made a habit of saying yes as often as possible to opportunities. One of those opportunities was Hollywood Express, this show that goes to international affiliates about movies that is sold individually. So it was a profit center. And so it was, I'm sure, a business decision. It wasn't because I was the best writer or producer necessarily in the bunch. I have always tried to follow the adage of doing the work of 3 people, and it's more cost efficient to keep you. As Christian was talking about getting to know what people in other departments do, not just for being able to communicate better with them, but it helps you do your job better. I am a lousy video editor. If they depended on me editing the video, they'd be sunk. But I learned to do it, and I try to keep up on the technology because I will not ask a video editor as a producer to do something that they can't do or that they shouldn't do in my script if I have an understanding of what they do. I talk with cameramen, that's gendered, sorry, photojournalists all the time to try to see what obstacles they're facing, what the technology is that's changing that they work with. It's not just so that I can relate to them better, it makes me better at what I do. To know what the other people in my industry, the people I count on to do their jobs the best in coordination with me, if I know how they do their jobs and what's involved, I'll be a better partner for them, and I can, in the end, do my job better, and that helps you keep your job.
Yes, I echo all of that.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. I would say I agree. I mean, I started out doing makeup, but you have to learn what everybody's job is. I write and produce now, and I have plans to direct, and realistically, in order to wear those hats, you have to have compassion and understanding of what everybody does on set. So, I mean, when I did makeup, I was the first one that was there, not just because I did makeup. I mean, you have to be the first one there. But I was the last one to leave because I wanted to study what everybody did. So, I mean, I would help anybody in between because there's a lot of, when they do scene setups and things like that, starting out as makeup ended up being the catalyst for me being the writer that I am now. Because I had to understand, like I said, lighting, and I had to know what craft services job was. I had to know how valuable they were when you were having a super bad day. I would help set up C-stands, learn what the gaffer was doing. I worked with wardrobe, obviously makeup and wardrobe, that makes sense. But then I went completely a different route, and I couldn't get a job. I just gotten the job on Star Wars, and then I couldn't travel. I had a niece that had leukemia, and I just couldn't leave her. And so I had to figure out what I was going to do next, and I ended up getting a job on Lost World doing effects, like building T-Rexes. I learned how to, the first day on set, they thought it was kind of a joke because I had to tell them. I was the only woman at the time in effects. They were not hiring any women. Many of the special effects makeup artists would not work with women. Rick Baker. And so, I was like, fine, hire me for a week. I'll work for free. And if at the end of that week I've proven myself, then you pay me union dues and all that stuff. And so I worked for a month, and I mean, I could look at Lost World and I could tell you, oh, I laid a track that would support a ton T-Rex. I had to use a jackhammer. I had to learn how to lay rebar, weld aluminum and steel. I can look at the cars and go, oh my God, I put that together. Is that my wheelhouse? No. But you do it because it's a job and it's experience. And so I think the longevity aspect was when I decided to pivot from makeup and go back to school to learn writing, which I hate to say this, you can't really learn writing. You either practice it every day or don't do it, because it has to be something that you love. It is a painful thing. You exist in your head along with whatever characters you've created. It's great trauma therapy. But, sorry. So I think in terms of like longevity, it is knowing what everybody's job is, respecting everybody that you work with, showing up on time. No ego. There's no room for ego in this industry. You will not make it. You can't. I mean, I've been doing this for 26 years, and all I can tell you is be easy to work with and be highly adaptable. Because when I got this job for MGM, I had never written a comedy before. I'd only written drama, but all my dramas had dark comedy in them. So they took a huge risk on me because it's a major studio. And at that point, that wasn't something that I really did, but they gave me that chance. And so that's why I say, like, always be prepared, and be able to take criticism. Because, I mean, as a writer, like, this is where journalism has helped me. I mean, I've launched like 9 magazines and published 2,500 articles, and every time you write a new article, you still got to, like, check yourself. You got to have a reader. You got to make sure that when somebody gives you criticism that you can handle it. And when you're writing for film, especially if it's your story, I started out, like I said, in film. I never thought I'd end up in TV, but I really love TV. You guys are so lucky because you're starting in a landscape that doesn't have a lot of rules anymore. We had so many rules, most of us up here. We had to adhere to so many things, and now that there's all the digital platforms and the streaming platforms, story has a whole new voice, and that makes room for all of your voices. And just remember, to make it, there's a lot of competition out there, and that seems so daunting, but no one sees the world the way that you do. Always remember that. The way that you see things, no matter what role you decide to take in this industry, no one will approach it the same way that you have. And so give yourself a little grace on that. So that's it.
I think so.
Instead of speaking more about the longevity side of things, because I'm not much older than you guys, I will give you some words of advice that, look, as the panelists have said, that there are a number of different routes that you can take to get to where you want to be, and sometimes you're going to have to learn to pivot. Sometimes you're, like I was, maybe not be successful at something and have to kind of learn to adapt. So you guys are all going to hate me for saying this. On my way out, I'm probably going to have half a dozen of you try and do something to me, so I'll try and protect myself. 5 words. These 5 words absolutely changed my life. You guys ready? Delete your social media accounts. Get off of TikTok. Get off of 4chan. Get off of Pinterest or Tumblr or whatever the hell kids are using nowadays. I really don't know. No more MySpace. I guess not.
Is it so much as delete, or is it edit heavily? Your
If you use it for school or for work, that's another thing. Let's put it this way. My man in the front, what's your name? Quinn. Are you comfortable telling me how long each day you spend on social media? The average American spends 2 hours, 27 minutes doing this with their thumbs. Every single day. At the end of the year. Is it higher than that?
It's almost 6 hours.
They say when you thumb like this, half an inch. At the average American year roll 5 miles with their thumbs. You can find something better to do with your time.
Okay, well, I feel a lot better about myself. My social media output for the day is probably about 4 minutes. So I think, score for me. Obviously, we're all going to repeat some of the same stuff, so I will hopefully keep mine as shorter to just the stuff that we haven't talked about. I don't remember. The question was like, how do you keep active in this or career and stuff? Okay, sustainability. So basically, just obviously learning. For all those people that want to be directors out there, my suggestion is take acting classes. Because the biggest thing you have to do is talk to actors, and you need to know how to speak their language. So take acting classes. This industry, I don't know if I made this statistic up, but it's generally 20% what you know, and 80% who you know. So basically, all of your jobs are going to come from people that you've gone to school with and have met on other jobs. So make friends with your classmates, because what's going to happen is one of them is going to get on a show or on a project, and what we're going to do is when we are hiring people, we'll be like, oh crap, we need somebody. Quinn, do you have a friend? And Quinn's going to be like, oh my God, I have 3 friends. And that's who's going to come on. And then basically now you know somebody, and then you've met them, and you'll be like, oh, we're going to hire Quinn's friend for the next one or whatever. So it's all, and that's how basically it is. So just keep acquaintances, because you guys, now you know that all you people are in the same interest. You have the same interest. So already your job pool is going to kind of get a little bit more concise, because you don't have to worry about, oh, do I know anybody in the industry? Ooh, this is going to be a hard one. So yeah, and then third is this industry is brutal. It is a battle of attrition, meaning that a lot of people that you know are not going to make it. It's just the way it is. It sucks, because not because you guys are unskilled, not because nobody likes you or anything like that. It's just luck of the draw, and you lucked into this thing, and you were in the right place at the right time. So just be persistent, and if you have the ability to say yes, say yes. Doesn't matter what it is. If it's not going to hurt you, say yes. That's to life and career in general.
Thank you. That was a great advice. I can tell you that. So yeah, Patrick, it's your turn.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of things. One is you absolutely got to throw away the word no and not care about people saying no to you. Because the reality is, no matter which profession you choose as you move forward in film and TV, you're going to get, 50 no's to every yes. And so, you have to be passionate about what you're doing. If you're doing it just try to make money, find another industry. I guarantee you'll make way more money. And be happier. So be passionate about it. Work harder than anyone else. Like that. I all the movies that I've done, the people that stand out the most are the ones that show up first and leave last. And they're the ones that want it the most. And I remember, even for me, before I even had my first movie, I just blindly just had faith, and I kept going and going and going. In our first movie, I got literally 50 no's from every one you could imagine before we got the one yes. And so just hustle. You got to hustle your ass off, want it more than the other person, and make sure that whatever it is that you're finding that you like, writing, directing, producing, props, line producing, that you love it. And if you don't love it, don't do it, because you won't be successful at it.
Go, Shannon.
My mom always told me that we're all rising to our next level of inadequacy. And I think about that sometimes. I think when I was first starting out, I always felt so bad. Like I didn't know anything, and I felt like I should know everything. And then now I realize, like, oh, nobody knows everything. Like that's not a thing that happens. And the producers that I work with, every movie's different, so we're not in the same situation all the time. And we're always trying to figure out, oh, how do we do that, or what's that new piece of equipment? Because this industry is always changing and evolving, and so I think don't feel bad if you don't know everything right away, because we'll never know everything, right? And it doesn't mean that you are actually inadequate or that you are an imposter or anything like that. It just takes time, and I wish that I had been more comfortable with not knowing things when I was first starting out, because it definitely, hurt my self-esteem at work. So that's one thing. And then some practical things that I was sitting here thinking, what really helped me, or what were turning points throughout my this part of my career. And I know when I was first starting out, it really did help that I had computer skills. I mean, I knew how to make it a wonderful spreadsheet. I knew Excel. I knew Word. I knew how to use an email really effectively. And those are skills that really help you, especially when you're first getting started, because you might be one of 3 or 4 assistants, and if you can send a very succinct, well-written email, if you can create a spreadsheet on the fly when a producer or your line producer needs something, you're going to stand out, and those are things that are really helpful. So that helped me, I think, a lot when I first was starting, and then just being very kind, being a positive team member, because people working, even if you're not stressed out, people who are working with you, with the department heads, might have a very stressful day, stressful week or month, and so I think if you just stay calm and polite, kind, having nice office etiquette really goes a long way. And I think those are the big things that help me, but also not being afraid to reach out to people and ask questions, ask people for coffee or a Zoom to pick their brain and get some information, and asking for, I remember when I said I assisted for 5 years, I remember seeing people who assisted for way less moving up, and I was like, well, what is going on here? And I realized they were asking to be moved up. They were like saying, oh, I'm looking for these opportunities, and then they started getting them. And then once I started telling people, I'm looking to move up, or I'm looking for the next, that next level, it started happening, and I realized I really needed to be an advocate for myself, because this industry does just not have like a straight path that people will give you the bonus or give you the next title. It's like you kind of have to put yourself out there.
Thank you, Shannon. All right, so Chase, your turn.
Everything everyone else said. Everyone nailed the point on the head. The only thing to add that I could say is always prepare for winter, because this is a feast or famine industry. Just because you had a really, really good 6 months, literally working 6 hours a day, 72 hours a week, and it seems like you have a good savings set aside, it is not uncommon to go 1 month, 2 months, 3 months without a single call. It has nothing to do with you. This industry ebbs and flows. There's high season, there's low tide, and you always have to just, if you just hoard your money when times are good, you're not stressed when you don't have any money, and you don't have to completely jump on the first job that comes your way. You can always, maybe hold out for a little bit instead of working for minimum wage. If you have the idea that somebody who usually calls me this time of year for a job that pays double minimum wage, might be best to hold out, but if you don't have any savings in your bank, and if you have to make money right now, you have to take the first thing that comes your way. That's all I got.
Okay, going back to Christian. What qualities do you look for in potential candidates for seeking employment with you?
Well, my number one thing is you have to work your ass off. If you don't, then I don't want you there. I mean, if you're going to sit around on your phone or on your social media or anything like that, there's no point in you being there. So it's my job to be sitting around on social media, and you got no. No, but when I'm hiring someone, even when it's interns or production assistants, they're just the first people, the first what is the word for it? The first tier of jumping into the industry. That's my number one. I'm watching everybody, and everyone else on the crew is watching you too. And no matter what, every single department, and if they see you sitting around doing nothing, when you're as a PA, intern, you can get away with it because you're not getting paid, and you're there to learn and learn by doing. But as a production assistant, your job is to do all of the no fun stuff, and every once in a while it can be fun. But if you're sitting around on your phone or just bullshitting at the craft service table, your job as a PA, you have to be working nonstop. And if you're going to the bathroom, you should be walking very fastly, and everybody thinks that you're doing something, but you just have to go pee. Doesn't matter, And so that's the number one thing. And just be cool, be on top of your stuff, and and do a good job. Simple as that.
3 A's: attitude, aptitude, adaptability. I don't want to work with someone who doesn't have a good attitude. If you're not there to work with other people, then why are you there? Aptitude, entry level, you're not going to have all the skills, but you have to come with something. You have to come and be able to point to what you can contribute right away as you learn what else you can contribute. And adaptability, if you can only work one way, then you're not as useful to me. You need to be able to work individually and with a team. You have to be able to handle changes that come up. No need to make it any more complicated than that.
Ooh, mine's a little rougher. Spell. Know how to completely do basic grammar, because there are so many people who submit articles or submit screenplays, things that I've read, and I'm like, how did you graduate school? No, well, and that's the thing is like every writer. I mean, when I did this whole thing for MGM, I mean, there was money involved and big head people and big names and all this stuff, but I would still miss a word once in a while, or I would mess something up. But that's okay. But you have to be able to like verbalize, especially at least in my industry, if you want to write or you want to be a filmmaker. I mean, the beauty of what this whole industry is it starts with a single idea, and then it takes hundreds of people that work collectively to make it amazing. And when it's not amazing, you know it, because it's a crappy project that ends up getting produced, and you watch things like Game of Thrones season 6 and get very upset. There was no point to the other 5. But you know, I mean, that's the thing is, like for me, I need somebody that actually has work ethic. And I don't mean to single out men, but I primarily am looking to hire women and LGBT and women who do not get enough of a voice, or LGBTQ who are not getting enough of a voice, because for me, that's a voice I need to hear more of, because I think growing up Hispanic in a very strange culture, and being in a mixed race family, like I didn't know where my identity lied. And so I think that that's very important. And yeah, I write comedy, and like this comedy that I just did was about a girl who's second generation Mexican American, and you know, it's a lot of fun. But the reality is I want people who are hungry. I want people who actually love story, who are okay failing, because you're gonna fail. But like if you can just fail and like shake it off and then get back up, that's what interests me. And also integrity and having work ethic. Like we work in an industry where, I mean, I'm sure we could all tell all kinds of stories. And when you're a makeup artist and you write and you do all these other things, you see things that someone will pay you a lot of money to get the intel on. And the reality is you've got to just like lock it up. Like you're not on there to tell someone else's business. Like there are times when you'll see things that compromise your morals a little bit. And you have to be willing to speak up to the people around you. And I think for me, that's really what it comes down to. Like I will hire anybody who is hungry, passionate, who actually believes in this industry. Because it's a hard, like you said, I mean, it is feast or famine. And I mean, COVID really took that 1 month off and made it like 3 years. Because quite honestly, there are still productions that were supposed to go in 2019 that still haven't completed, because there was so many things that they had to change. I mean, the rules changed over the last 3 years. But like, I guess I'm more of a, like, I want you to be creative. I want you to not be afraid to tell me, like, I don't like that. Like, you don't have to like what I do. Tell me, but tell me why. Know why you don't like it. Get creative, like use your brain. And I think it's the passion for me that is so hard to find, because it's hard. This is a hard industry. So yeah, I guess the very long, short answer is show up, work hard, be curious, and don't quit just because it gets hard, because it's going to be hard. And like, in addition to the longevity thing, I mean, this is not a short game kind of industry. You've got to want to do it. Like the people that make it, yeah, I want to say that some people don't make it because they didn't get lucky, but really they didn't stick it out. It's not easy. It's not easy, but if you can like hold on and really, you've got to believe in yourself, because nobody else is going to do that for you. So start there, and then we'll hire you because we like that.
You stole one of my words. As Yasser said, I'm a philosopher more than anything else. So, the great Winston Churchill said, integrity, with it, nothing else matters. Without it, nothing else matters. Take that apart. Do you mind if I add a fourth A? 3A? Go for it. Accountability. If you can own up to your mistakes, I'm your guys' generation loves, sitting on our asses, I'm pointing the finger, woe is me, everything sucks, it's not my fault. Guess what? The person next to you who's also in a bad mood, who's also having a bad day, if they get off their ass, they're that much more head down. Accountability.
Yeah, some of the biggest mistakes I've ever made was like, I never made a mistake on shoot that day. That's the #1 rule, is like, as long as we can film. But if I've said, you know what, I screwed up, and it's my fault, you won't get fired 90% of the time. You know, so that's the key. Yeah, accountability is great word.
Yeah, that is a great word.
I have this saying that I've been saying for years. I can teach green, I can't teach stupid. So meaning that if you're coming into something, I don't care, you're never going to know everything. But some of the things that I expect is, if you don't know something, flat out tell me you don't know something. If it's something, if you're putting on your resume that, you know what, hey, I'm a DP, and I've been DPing for 12 years, I expect you to know how to DP. So if you come to me and be like, how do you operate a camera? That's a big strike against you. But if you're coming in as an entry-level position, I do not expect you to know how to set up a camera and run it and do whatever, or I don't expect you to know how to fill out this paperwork properly. But, so I will 100% I will teach you, and I'll teach you, just sit down and tell you all the steps to do it. I expect you to learn 50 to 60% of it the first time. I expect there to be mistakes. Then I'll go back and say, okay, well, now you did most of it, now you're going to do this, this, and this. By the second time you do it, I expect you to know probably how to do it 80%. By the fourth or fifth time, if you're still coming back to me and making the same mistakes, maybe that's not the person I'm going to hire and bring back. So you just have to be able to learn, have to want to learn, and it's all about, if we actually like you, we'll keep you around and keep hiring you back.
Can you repeat the question again? I just want to make sure.
Of course.
It's been,
what qualities do you look for in potential candidates seeking employment with you?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's a big question. I mean, physically being on set, with, you know, the interesting thing about you guys as you kind of go into the film and TV industry is the first kind of job is a PA. And that's kind of the entry point into a set, and then you kind of, you know, scour it and look to see which path you want to say. So what I would say, just generally from an advice standpoint, and what I look for is don't be afraid to be uncomfortable. You know, if you're on set, like I remember when I was younger on set, I'd walk on set and I would be terrified to talk to anyone. I'd be terrified to go talk to a producer, a production, you know, the head of a department, and I'd kind of, you know, it was hard for me to kind of get out of my shell and actually physically talk to people. But yet from my perspective as a producer, I seem to a good PA that comes on set, I remember them more than anyone else on set, because they're the ones that I'm actually seeing every day, and they're the ones who are seeing every department head every day. They're you know, everyone else is kind of off doing their own thing where they're kind of bouncing around. So as uncomfortable as it may be, don't be afraid to go to everyone and talk to them. Do you need any help? Can I get you some water? You know, like, just try to be as you know, an extroverted as possible, even though it may be incredibly uncomfortable to do, because it's very impressionable for people like myself that see that someone's motivated, they're hungry, and those are the first people that I want to give an opportunity to, you know. And don't be afraid to go to a department. If you want to get in camera at some point early on, go talk to the DP. Go have a conversation with them. Say, hey, I really want to get into this. What can I do? Can I get some advice? You know, be your own, somebody else said this on set, but be your own advocate. Like, don't just sit back waiting for it to happen. Go make it happen.
Yeah, I love building teams. That's the team aspect of movie making is my favorite aspect of movie making. And so I really look for people who are kind, who want to be there, who want to be on the team, who appreciate like that team spirit. I think also just people who are organized, who have strong organizational skills, because a lot of times the assistants that I work with have to do a lot of just practical work, like they have to scan documents, and if I give them a stack of 100 documents, I do expect that those are done accurately. And so there's a lot of just tasks like that, making sure that people are nice, but that they're also following through, getting things done. If they're not getting something done, to tell me what's happening. And if you don't have a lot of experience or you're just starting out, that's never been a problem for me to hire someone, because I look at everyone's kind of their full experience. And I've hired some really, really wonderful team members who started out working at Starbucks. And that ended up being a huge asset to their career, because they could think on their feet. They could think quickly, they stayed calm under pressure, and they were clean. All of those things that when you're working in an office, they're great. And and also just the last thing, oh my gosh, I was thinking of something. Just being on time, and also being, when you're an assistant in an office, you're representing the movie, and in many cases, the lead actor that's coming in for their fitting, or the financier that's coming in, like that's who they might be interacting with. I'll probably be in an office, and they're interacting with our assistant who's greeting them. And so I'm anticipating that our assistant is being very, they're being a strong representative for the team as a whole, because they are interfacing with everyone, kind of being my eyes and ears. So I want to make sure that the person's comfortable in that position.
Thank you, Shannon. All right, so Chase, what would you say?
It's always so hard to go last. Everyone's got such good advice. No. I don't like it. That's the thing. I got time to think about the question until somebody steals my idea. No, I would say, what do I look for when I hire people? The film industry is a lot like high school from a John Hughes movie.
Yes.
It's a lot of different people from different backgrounds, different things that they want within their team. Pretty well everyone is on the same page. If you're green, it's fine. We like hard workers. We like, people who, aspire and are willing to learn. We all want that as an employer. I like working with people that personally has all those things and is very easy to get along with, who's just part of the ex-goth kids, When we're working, especially on set, it's a very, very stressful job. Do you want to spend all those hours stressed out with somebody who gives you more stress, or do you want to spend those hours with somebody who you get along with, has your back, and you just have a good time with? Because we're all in this industry because, hopefully, not for fame and fortune, but because it's an interesting job. It's a lot of fun at times, and a lot of times it's not. And when you hire people or work with people that you get along with very, very well, it just makes the bad days better and the good days great.
Sucks working with assholes. It makes the entire day awful. And like the entire movie, you're like, God damn it, I hated that movie. And especially if you can't fire them too.
It's even worse on TV. It's even worse on TV when one of my shows was literally a year.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, I did 10 years on a show, but yeah, that was. But everybody was nice.
One doc series a year.
Oh, okay, yeah.
All right, thank you so much, everyone. Next question, I'd also like to give my own personal input on what sort of qualities you guys can have for both your long-time career as well as for your first experience. I never worked anywhere. But I can definitely say this, film industry, TV industry, acting, whatever, you should always see that basically companies selling a product, right? Where basically they have the entertainment product, they sell movies, they sell gear regarding that movie. So what does that mean? It's nothing but corporations, just like any other industry. So if you have a good business mindset, if you have a good business experience, you know how to deal with contracts, budget, if you know how to work on deadlines, if you know how to work with people, be a good leader, have a good leadership mindset. I think that's pretty good as well, because yeah, you can be a good cameraman. You may know how to act, you may know how to cry, you may know how to do everything that is expected from someone working in the film industry. But if you do have a mindset that's built on working with logic, working with, how can I say this, how to treat people, how to actually make a better environment, and also how to coordinate your environment, that's pretty worth it having. Yeah, that's my own input that I can. Yeah, thank you. For the next question, I actually have a question specifically for Dawn, Dana, and Shannon. Since this is March, it's Women's Her Story or History Month, I'd like to ask what particular challenges have women faced in the entertainment industry, and I'd like you to give your own personal experience for that question.
You want to start on that side?
Sure. Oh, man. Woman. I didn't mean to do that. This is a nervous tick because it's very personal stuff. I mean, it's been really difficult for women. And, you know, when you, speaking just on my own personal experiences, I was raised by a working mom who worked in this industry as well. And my sister and I joke that we come from, a long line of starving artists. It's really hard. It's a really hard industry. And I saw my mom get, denied a lot of opportunities. She was able to write for a television show, but could never be on a staff writer because they didn't have female staff writers. And she was constantly having to pivot. So when I joined the workforce, I really had all of this, hope that it would be better. But, and I feel very fortunate that I didn't have too horrendous of a situation happen to me. But, I definitely worked on an indie film where a director asked me to bring him some footage at the end of the night. I don't know why he needed it on a Friday night. At the time, I didn't know why he answered the door in a robe. I honestly didn't understand what was going on. I got back to my car and I was like, oh, how embarrassing for him. Why would he do that? Didn't he know I was coming? And then I realized later, oh my God, I just dodged a weird thing. And then I've been pregnant twice. I've been a pregnant worker twice, working in production. The first time I was pregnant in a production was before the Me Too movement. And I saw a huge shift with how I was treated when I was pregnant. Suddenly I was called words like, suddenly I was like sweetheart or baby, or I was treated like, infantized when I was pregnant. And even beforehand, realizing a lot of comments that were made, you just kind of let go off your back, whatever, because you just had to move forward and keep going. And then the Me Too movement happened. I remember exactly where I was when that famous article now came out, and about Harvey Weinstein, and
who is a total douche, just for the record.
Oh yeah, I mean and that was atrociously bad.
Oh no, he's a douche.
And I remember at the time just reading it in awe. I couldn't believe everyone was talking about these things. I couldn't believe that a lot of people just didn't know how bad it was. I think a lot of people just chose not to think about it. And I remember, it wasn't after I read it right away, but there was this moment during that time where I just wept because I felt like, oh my gosh, something is happening, it's changing. And it didn't happen overnight, even though the article, blew up, and it didn't happen overnight. But then I've noticed things, then when I was pregnant a second time, I wasn't called names, even though the names were fairly harmless. It just didn't happen. And now I did experience some harassment. I actually worked on it was one of the few very high budget things I did, where there was no female, and this was after the Harvey Weinstein article. I won't say the name, but it's on my IMDb. It's a very high budget show. And there were some women that I found out were being sexually harassed on the show. And I reported it because I'm a manager and I have to do that. I have to do it. I also morally had to do it. And I found out after that the person I reported it to, who was the person I was supposed to report it to, just basically was like, didn't do anything about it. So then I had to go above them, and I ended up having to contact like the top person on this show behind the scenes, not like a showrunner, but like a higher. And it was finally, there was an investigation. It took like 8 months. And it was proven that I was what I witnessed and what people came to me. Change happened on that show. And even though, I wasn't asked back on the show, I wouldn't have wanted to go back on the show. But I heard from some colleagues that were still on that things improved. I think that harassment prevention has gotten a lot better. I think that there's a lot of ways to report things now. So I think, for you entering the workforce, if you experience harassment, there are hotlines you can call. Certainly all IATSE shows have to put the IATSE hotline, the safety hotline, on the call sheet. You don't have to be an IATSE member to call that. If you see something unsafe, whether it relates to harassment or just something unsafe on set, you can report it. Women in Film has a hotline to call. The SAG has a hotline to call. So there's resources that exist now that did not exist when I started. I think everyone has a story about this. Certainly, like mine is so minor in comparison to what other people have experienced. But I really think it's getting better. And I have seen so much change, and I have a lot of hope for those of you who are starting now. Sorry that was long-winded.
Well, I personally haven't had that many problems of being harassed or anything. I do get a lot of not wanting to be hired, or people not wanting to hire you because you are a woman, because it is still a boys' club. I mean, and if you look at stuff in general, if you see like a film or a TV show and there's like 5 or 6 guys, they're more comfortable hiring guys. So it is hard being that person that say, okay, you know what, no, being the only female in the room, just because you tend to kind of gravitate towards people that are the same, whether it's same sex, same race, same sexual orientation, or whatever. I mean, it's just human nature. You gravitate to what you're comfortable with. And so, but, there are a lot of stuff that it's out there, diversity and inclusion, and people are trying to make that happen. So, like I said, I've never had, a sexual problem or anything, like somebody's come on or anything seriously detrimental thing. It's just more of not wanting to hire me because I'm a woman. But
that's a big thing.
Yeah.
That's a big thing.
But basically, for me, I've been lucky. So as soon as somebody does hire me and latches onto me and says, hey, then it doesn't matter. They will put me on whatever show. Doesn't matter if I was on a show that was a primarily African American story, but because they knew my work ethic and they know that if you have a reputation that says I can work with anything, and believe in what you do, then it doesn't really matter whether you're black, white, female, male, trans, whatever. If your reputation precedes you, then you should be just right on that.
So I'll start at the end, basically. I've experienced all of that. I've been in many offices where I've been sexually harassed over the course of my career. But I'm very, verbal, and I don't take anybody's shit. So even as a 19-year-old kid, I was raised by that's the one thing my dad did really right, was he raised us all to speak up and think for ourselves and do things for ourselves. And so I've had a lot of interactions. I had, I guess, one of the worst things that ever happened was because of my magazine, I ended up getting an amazing radio show, and we were syndicated, and it was my show, and I hosted it, but it was in a, we were in a box. It wasn't out I don't like being in front of the camera. But it did really, really well. Well, the station manager like it got so bad, the sexual harassment got so bad that my agent pulled me from a successful show because I couldn't, it was like I wasn't eating. I started bringing people with me. And the thing is that's not uncommon. I would say that the greatest problem that they're still dealing with now is wage disparity because we're still paid less than men. When I got on the show that I just did, can I cuss? Okay.
You wouldn't be the first.
I know, but like I'm really gonna let it out. So when I got this job, when they had the Zoom meeting, like the people that I was meeting with, these were the heads of the studio at MGM. This was the first, I had done production, I'd worked for big people, but as a makeup and special effects artist, and then I learned, this is something that's kind of a sidebar here, but I learned a lot because when I decided to go back to school to learn more about writing, because I didn't want to work 20 hours a day, which I do now anyways, but I worked for BET Network, and I worked there for 5 years, and I worked in advertising. And I am LA born and bred, so diversity is just in my blood. Like, it doesn't make sense to me when there's not a mix of everybody. So that was a big thing. But when we had this meeting, I was meeting with these, my producer was named like one of the most powerful women in Mexico. Like, she's a badass and super smart. So when she was asking me about all these questions, like when we had this pitch call, I didn't know who I was up against. I was up against an incredible pool of talented writers who had way more experience than I ever did. And she just was asking me all these questions, like really tough questions, and I was at the ready. But I finally said, can I just say something? And she goes, yeah. I said, if you want to change the fucking narrative, then let's change the fucking narrative. And so that's my whole approach to everything now. And so in terms of challenges, when I say I want to see what women are out there first, is because we're always passed up. There's not enough editors out there. There's a lot of female producers, thank God. But there's not a lot of female gaffers. There's not a lot of female sound mixers. There's not a lot of female color correctors. We need more women behind the camera and in front of the camera, and we need stories to represent the world that we actually live in. And so that is a challenge, which I would say has gotten better, because I do think that if you guys don't know about, there's a million networks out there now, but Reverie TV is an incredible network. It's LGBT network, and they have unbelievable shows, like game shows, and they're all like really high caliber productions. And then there's, before it was just BET. Well, now there's Freeform. There's like a million other networks out there where you can see yourself. And that's like, I think as women, that has been the hardest thing ever, is because when you see women who are moms who are working, it's always like a struggle, and we're always like still trying to have a boyfriend, or once in a while they'll throw in like, oh, she liked a girl, but it's like so just calculated. And I think now the difference is with this big platform that you guys are coming into, you have way more opportunities, and there are women like me, and I belong to, so if you guys are looking to belong to organizations and you are women or LGBTQ, Women in Film, I'm a member of, Women in Entertainment, Women Occupy Hollywood. There's Women's March Foundation does production stuff. They have, there's Black Films Matter. There are Latinas in cinema. There are Latina filmmakers. Like, there's a lot of stuff out there. You just have to really seek it out, and I'm happy to provide links to any of those things, because I want to see more people in this industry and allies, because we actually need you guys. We need you so desperately to be allies of women and women of color and LGBTQ. Like, that needs to be something that's really important, and it's something that I think it's changing. The landscape, thank God, is changing, but when you look at what's happening in this country right now, and I know I'm not allowed to talk about politics, but when you see the hate, the racism, the homophobia, the transphobia, and all this awful stuff that surfaces, it's because they're afraid, because they're no longer going to be able to do the things that they're getting away with doing. And that's because of people like us and people like you, and willing to use creativity as a platform to implement change. So I guess that's all I want. That's a lot.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank the three of you for sharing such personal experiences. I think that's pretty valuable, especially for the people that are here, for them to be aware of what's out there and how to deal with it, how to have courage to face that, and also try to emancipate, right? Even for the future generations, of course.
Can I just say one thing too?
Feel free.
Is for women who have experienced harassment, find somebody that you trust on set. Always have someone that you trust, because no matter what, like it's not just the film industry. It happens in every industry. But if you pair up with someone, or you find somebody that really like takes you under their wing. I didn't get a mentor. I just had to, like, I was thrown into the lion's den and had to figure it out, and that was good for me. Like, that's how I function. But I really had people that cared about me on different productions, and you do need that, and that's where just being like an easy person to work with helps too, because like you need to know that like someone's got your back, and they do.
Thank you.
But if they don't, report them with the safety hotline.
Exactly. Sell them under the damn river.
Okay, thanks so much once again. Before we jump to the audience questions, I have one last question, and I actually gonna ask you to try to answer that in only one word, like each one of you. So, what qualities or skills do you, no, I'm sorry, that was the third question already asked. What skills do you recommend the students to learn before entering the workforce?
Everything.
Will a hyphenated word do? Yeah. Okay. Hopefully you're already learning it. Time management.
Time blocking.
Work ethic.
Technically,
right now in our
technically that was 2 words and not hyphenated.
Oh yeah, so work.
Damn.
Ethic.
Yeah, sure.
I'll do integrity.
Or like a term. I'm sorry, don't limit yourself to one word, but like one term.
Spell.
Change the rules after I
Confidence.
I thought you were gonna say coffee. I think that was pretty legit. Like, drink a lot of coffee.
That works too.
I mean, this is cheesy, but I would go back to what I said earlier, which is just passion.
Communication.
I don't know how to count, so self-worth.
Hyphenated.
All right, thanks so much. That was all the questions that I have for you. Actually, Nicole had, because I didn't write these. I'm sorry. But so now we're gonna offer the attendees here the opportunity to ask you questions directly. So if any of you wish to ask something, please stand up and go to the mic. Don't be afraid. It doesn't bite. Just go there, ask a question. Thank you. Shout out to her.
I love it. We got him.
My question is, and Patrick, I think passion is an excellent word for all of life's encounters. So my question is, where is it? Because I can barely read my own writing. Would I be a great writer?
Maybe a great doctor.
Yeah,
Great
that too. I'm actually a great writer, but so for someone that has special needs, where might any one of you suggest where they might go for acting or voiceover, which are 2 strengths that my son has, especially with the voiceover? So that's my question. I'm just going to sit down so I could jot down some notes. Thank you.
Yeah, I wouldn't know of like where to learn it, but yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, especially voiceovers are it's super easy to do your own. You know, as long as you have a computer, you can record everything and make yourself a reel. You can take other movies, or take a movie from far away place and nobody knows what it is, and put your own voice on it and do all the voices in your own voice. And then you have a reel, and then you can show that around and eventually get an agent. But I mean, and always be doing it and always be creative, creating new ways of. I don't know. And does he or she want to be an actor as well, or just do voiceover? Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I think probably, I hate to say this, but I think acting and that kind of stuff is probably the hardest part of the industry to break into.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's no matter what, without any kind of difficulties, it's just going to be an uphill battle. It's kind of just a matter of perseverance, of just keep plugging away, trying to get, submit stuff to. My first thing would say casting. Go to extras casting. And start that way. Because basically the people that are going to get him on anything, whether it's voiceover or on camera, is going to be casting directors. Yeah. And basically, yeah. LA Casting, Central Casting. You can sign up. They have websites. You pay you pay like $50 or something, and then they have a website. You go on. They ask you a couple questions. You submit a couple photos, or a reel or whatever, and then you can tell them, hey, I want to work this many hours. I'm available these days. And if it's something that a producer's looking for, you go out, and the more you can be on set and the more you can get seen by people, the better off he's going to be.
And every year, it's not year-round, but every year there is something called the Easter Seals Disability Film Challenge. This is the 10th year I've been covering it, and really proud to cover it for a while. Teams of small production companies, basically, a dozen, 2 dozen people, with people with various disabilities, both in front of and behind the camera. Every team is a mix of people with and without disabilities, and disability is the largest minority group in the country. One in 5 people in this country have some kind of disability, and they make short films. It's the sort of make a film in a weekend kind of thing, where you're told the theme on, say, the Wednesday, and then you've got the Friday through Sunday to have it written, staged, shot, edited. There are awards given out. They get big studios and name brand people in the industry behind it to be mentors. Prizes include access to studio, C-suites and equipment to make films. They're shown at film festivals. And it's a way of meeting people, both disabled and not, in the film industry.
I want to say that New York Film School in LA has a program. There's industry mandates too, and if you never know what someone's looking for, so I think casting is a great place to start. But then reach out to film schools. Oh, reach out to film schools.
I'll say something a little bit specific. I think that if you created a website for him that's specific to him, and pick a bunch of scenes from previous movies where there would have been roles maybe that he would have wanted to play, take a bunch of voiceover and just throw it on the website. And the more you can build to that, the better. And to take it a step further, I'd go specifically to IMDb Pro, or go to Variety Insight, and you could sign up. It's like $50 or $100 a month, and you get access to every agent's email address, and just write up an email and send it to everyone. But
old school, and it totally is effective.
Yeah, totally. I mean, because I think actually there's an asset to the disability that makes it unique, that people would be attracted to. But you have to have enough material there to have someone click on something quick and see it and want to respond.
Yeah, IMDb Pro is great for contacts. Even though I'm still looking for a manager, I still can't get one. I don't know what the hell. Even with blind emailing, I never get any
You need
response.
one or the other.
Wait till this goes on the web, then you're all set.
Yeah.
And not only that, but I mean, if you do have a disability or something, you are going to have, there is a stigma against it that says, hey, you know what, can that person actually do it, or, to take a chance on it. So if he has something where he has a reel, it takes a little bit of that, uncertainty out of it.
So patient.
Okay, this one goes for Patrick and Joshua. This one goes for Patrick and Joshua. I, as a film student, I noticed I don't get to kind of see kind of like the finance side of it. I was wondering from your guys' experience, how does the kind of finance side of production work, like the backers and all that, like the financiers? I'm just kind of
no, it's okay. Yeah, no.
Can I add to that? And also, no. Also, and not only that, of the finance, some of the stuff you don't learn is also the distribution process after something gets made.
ROI.
So if you want to talk, about that as well.
ROI.
I mean, you want to jump in, or you want me to? Okay. I mean, the first question I have is, what are you trying to finance? Like what specific are you trying to get money for? But assuming like it's an independent film, for example, the first thing I would do is go reach out to someone on this panel to do a budget. Because the starting point is always how little can you make it for, and then you build the building blocks on top of that. So once you kind of know what you're trying to make it for, then it's about putting the variables within that bucket to help get the financing. So if, like, for example, is it a screenplay? Or yeah. Oh yeah.
No, it wasn't necessarily anything specific. It was just like kind of just wondering, like, yeah, exactly. Just
I mean, obviously you can, independent film financing. There's a bunch of systems, like to understand generally how films are financed. There's a lot of information out there, but if you're trying to finance something specific, I would lean on someone that has the experience to create budgets that can kind of help create the blueprint that you then build from. I don't know if that answers your question at all.
I would say, too, the one thing that everybody always forgets when they're making their budgets is advertising. And the only way that anybody sees your movie is if you submit it to festivals and you do all these things and you have people who, like, think about all the after stuff.
I mean, was your question more on how do you secure, like, financing?
No, I just
just how you finance a film.
Just generally, how does it work? Right?
Yeah, just like the side. Yeah, exactly.
You think about everything: locations, budgets. I mean, location.
Chad GPT.
I think you should definitely talk to him after.
I do know. I mean, essentially, what you do is you start off with a script. Then you bring it to somebody that's going to give you. They do a breakdown of the script. That's going to tell you, okay, you're going to need so many actor days. You need so many of this and everything else. And then you get the budget. From the budget, then now you know, okay, based on this, I'm going to need $1.2 million or whatever based on this script. Then you have to take it to finance. You have to find somebody that'll finance it, and then they'll give you the money, and then you obviously make it. And then after that, after you have a completed project, then you have to sell it to distribution. There's also different ways to do it because in order to get the financing, sometimes you have to have an actor attached, which is it's a whole catch-22. They won't finance it unless you have an actor attached, but you can't get an actor attached unless you have it financed. So it's all kind of sometimes it's all kind of just the luck of the draw and being in the right place at the right time. Has livestock ever been optioned? Oh, okay.
I'd also say, to just generally for everyone, I think the old school mentality, and even we still do it a lot, is I have a script, I'm going to go try to raise $1 million, $2 million. The whole idea of all these platforms that are releasing content right now kind of to me throws that model out the window. So if I was a producer coming in trying to make my first thing, I don't necessarily think I'd be running around trying to get $1.5 million to make a movie. I would take that script and I would kind of figure out what's a 3-minute short version of it, and I'd go get as many people together and go make something, even if it sucks. Proof of concept is massively important.
That's how Deadpool got made. A 10 minute, the shoot scene. That's the only scene they filmed, and that's how they got the funding.
I had a movie that we went out everywhere and no one bought it. We went and shot a 2-minute fake trailer, and we had a bidding war. And it was literally $5,000 we spent to just go do that with the director.
Same works in TV too. It's called the sizzle, and you basically just shoot a 2 or 3 minute, anywhere up to 5-6 minutes, and to get that sold to networks as well. So.
Yeah, for any producers, if I wanted to be a PA and I run out of things to do and I want to look busy, what am I doing?
Moving.
Essentially the biggest thing on a PA and like when you're doing a PA and stuff is just look to the future. So it's more of like, okay, you're standing around and you see a trash can is full. Empty the trash. Don't wait for wait for somebody to ask you. And then the other thing is then just talk to people. Don't be afraid to tell people, like, if you're on a show, don't be afraid to tell somebody, hey, I want to be in the camera department sometime, because then the next time if the producers like you, they will assign you to the camera department or have you help out the camera department more than if you're just a general person.
Yeah, ask, is there anything else I can do? Because sometimes I don't realize people have finished their tasks, and then I'm so busy working, I'm like, wait, you haven't done anything in an hour. So it's good to ask.
Yeah, just speak up.
Make sure there's toilet paper in the bathroom, please.
Okay, hi. First of all, Chase, I love your outfit. I just have to say.
Thank you very much.
Also, the guys that said they worked with Amazon, did you guys help work on the Daisy Jones and the Six? The new show? Oh. That's another Amazon show that I love. So my main question is, are directors understanding towards epilepsy and anxiety attacks? Because I have times during my film class where I just get so my heart starts beating randomly, and I've had my teacher tell me that this is maybe not the right industry, but I honestly feel like if I don't do acting, I don't know where else to be.
I'm going to speak up and say that's total bullshit. Oh, sorry, that's complete bullshit. You can absolutely, every single one of us has had a panic attack. Writers pretty much regularly. But my kid has them very, very badly. And the reality is that's just a part of the life that we live. And if you're there and you're working and you're doing a show and you're having a moment, you're going to be most likely surrounded by a lot of people who completely understand.
Right, just be upfront about it.
Yeah.
And so people.
Transparency.
Yeah, exactly. So we don't sit there and be like, okay, I don't know. She's just gone into a closet for 45 minutes. We don't know why. Just be like, hey, I need a few minutes or whatever. And then usually people will will kind of work around it. But sometimes you're just going to get the jerk.
Do you know what CBT is?
Cognitive behavioral therapy?
Yes.
Yeah,
So CBT and DBT are amazing skills there's decks that you can bring with you. So if you have a moment, go through your deck. Learn about wise mind. Learn about... literally, this is my life with my 16-year-old.
I've been doing yoga, actually, and I also do CBT, so I've been trying to manage it, but yeah, that's definitely something
You'll get there.
I've been struggling with, so I do...
By the way, if you ask, I've had that issue many times myself, and I think most people in this room have. They just don't want to admit it. So it's not an uncommon thing that you're going through that.
It's not.
I used to regularly break out in hives.
So they do understand that I shouldn't listen to the people that...
Yeah, unless they're the people that are hiring you.
Yeah.
Our families are great and well-intentioned, but they deserve to just be related.
Well, I would say that if you feel like the path you're taking is making you feel unhealthy, maybe reevaluate. But if you feel like this is something that you're experiencing regardless, just do what you love to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Always do what you love.
Yeah.
It just doesn't want to be the source. You don't want it to be the source of the anxiety.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hello. First of all, thank you all for coming. You've all shared some great wisdom, so thank you. So my question is, as an aspiring filmmaker, to you, what's like the most important thing to remember?
Always be curious.
Keep going.
Yeah, I mean, say, you know, filmmaker as in like a director, writer.
Yeah, director.
I mean, yeah, keep shooting, you know, like don't, even if it's your cell phone, just write stuff, shoot stuff. You know, the more practice you get on that, the better you're going to be, and the opportunity will come.
And really use the preparation that you can. I've worked with in indie film. You work with a lot of people on their directorial debut, or people who've only maybe made 1 or 2 movies. And some of the directors, Dan Kwan and Daniel Shiner, they used every moment of the pre-production to shot list and work, and they had answers when we needed them. And then I've worked with some directors that don't utilize prep and don't have answers, and they're constantly changing their mind, and it's really hard.
Thank you. Go Canada.
All right.
Hi. I know how you made the analogy of like high school to like the film industry, but I just wanted to ask, as somebody who is still in high school, what is something I could do now to help me with like my career later in the future, and hopefully like push it out so I can maybe like have more of a chance of breaking into the industry, because it's something that like scares me all the time.
This is why I don't like going first. I would say if you're still in high school, it echoes everything that a lot of people said here tonight. Try to learn about as much as you can. In this industry, it likes selling the idea that you can only be happy and financially secure if you're an actor, a producer, a writer, a director, even a production designer. This whole industry has hundreds of positions. If you love animals, you can be an animal wrangler. If you like guns, you can be a weapons or an armorer. If you like graphics, you can do graphics. I'd say at this point, with you being in high school, you do have the opportunity to truly find yourself and figure out what you enjoy. Even though it might sound or might feel like, oh, this is what I'm truly happy doing, there's no way I can make money in the film industry for that. You can make money in the film industry for everything. If you love puppets, people make a great living being, puppeteers on set. So I'd say the biggest thing, since you have the luxury of still figuring out who you are, is just figure out what you like, and I guarantee you there's probably a way to get paid for it in the film industry.
There's camps.
Oh, and camps.
There's amazing film camps. Good. There are many, and that is the best way, because really what all of you guys need is practical knowledge. It's one thing to study all these things, but it's another thing to be on set and be in the crazy, wild environment of go, 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 wait. Go. I mean, it's hurry up and wait. That is the industry that we're in, and you will hustle your butt off. But if
I work at a Starbucks, I know how it is.
But that's what I'm saying. So, I mean, that's kind of what it is. Like, when you get your rush, that's basically working on set.
I mean, and the joy about working in this industry is do your homework, so just watch everything. And the great news about in this industry, that is homework.
I want to do stuff more on like the production side. Producers specifically. Yeah.
It's the hardest job on set.
But yeah, you'll want to, like I said, just watch everything.
It can be super. It can be super fun.
Yeah, and just watch everything, all the content that you can, because then you'll know what's out there, and it'll kind of, because let's face it, what did they say, that there's only really three storylines: man versus nature, and man versus machine. Everything that you will ever watch is one that falls into one of those 3 categories. It's just a matter of how you tell it. So if you just keep watching everything, then maybe you'll come up with something that's the next great man versus man that nobody's ever done.
I would just say, too, the fact that you're here and you're in high school and you're asking this question, you're on the right path.
Yes. Yeah, the iPhone is excellent.
You have lights in your house.
LEDs, baby.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Before the next question, I just want to say we have 2 minutes, so 30 seconds for each one of you. Let's go.
And a lot of us will be
Yeah, we'll
at
be
the thing
here.
afterwards if you
Yeah, I
want to
think
talk to
this
us
should be the
one-on-one.
last one. I'm terribly sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's the most common mistake that people make in this industry that will lead them to inevitably fail?
Yep. That's the answer.
Not going for it in the first place.
So use birth control. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. No, the biggest thing is if you don't try, you'd never, it's taking that first step.
And then a follow-up, just real quick. Is there any sort of formula that you can follow when you don't have any connections in the industry? Like,
Show
what can
up.
you do to get noticed at all?
Yes.
I tried that.
I would say join organizations.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would join organizations, film independent if you want to work in film. I know people had firsthand great experiences there, and just build your community, and it eventually will happen.
80% who you know.
It really is. People you think you're never going to see again. Like I still remember people. Try to find one thing that you remember about every person that you come across, because one day you're going to come across them and you're going to remember that one thing.
My name is Stephanie. My number is no. Just
Hello, Stephanie. So you will remember.
30 seconds. I didn't know this. I'm really happy now because I'm starving.
Go.
Okay. Again, thanks for being here. Shannon, you had mentioned, being able to write a concise, succinct email, and just fire it off. That'll get you somewhere. So I actually have a problem with intimidating people because I can be direct. How does the industry handle that? I'm a little older. A lot of these lessons I've learned working at a couple of tech giants. I'm also on the 10-year plan with college. So, yeah, for all of you, directness.
It's
fine.
It's fine. Sometimes you might need to fluff it up a little bit. So just edit.
Okay.
Confident,
Have
not
someone
cocky.
in your life that could be a good barometer of the email before it prior goes out. I tend to do that a lot with him, frankly.
Well, I'm saying communication in general.
Yeah, no, 100%. Sometimes I am very direct. I am very, and sometimes I have to sit there and I have to call up a friend and be like, all right, this is coming off dickish. How can I make it less? And then, so basically sometimes you have to sit and just wait and sit on something and just, then go back and fluff it up and be like, that's not really what I want to say, but that's what I'm going to have to say.
Yeah, direct. I think direct can be an asset, and I don't think direct necessarily means rude. So it's just kind of that fine line to make sure that
I think maybe
it's
ask
fine.
effective or direct.
It's also better to lean direct than to lean pushover, because that's not going to get you anywhere.
Yeah, don't ever be. You got to.
All right, thank you. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, the other two questions, go attack us outside.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, so officially this is all we have for the entertainment industry panel. So I just want to thank both the audience and the panelists here today, because I think that was very productive, right? Pretty sure none of you were nervous, so that was pretty good because we actually got a flow and information and useful resources that we can, share with students, right? So yeah. No.